All right, guys, we're back in the shop again. Little disassembly on this thing. See if we can figure out what its problem is. Take it to get some sleeves put in it, get it fixed up, hopefully. Drain the startup oil in it. As you can see, it's a little milky. Pulling the valve covers off, and we'll get it on the engine stand here in a second when the oil stops draining. And the oil pan, I don't use a gasket, I just use silicone. I mean, this thing's practically held together with silicone, as you can see. Homemade valley cover, held on with silicone and some self-tapping screws. Oil pans held on with silicone. Reusable copper head gaskets. You know, we reuse those a bunch of times unless there's a failure. Which, you know, we've been pretty fortunate in that department. We got top fuel hoops from TKM. And that's like really been a pretty big game changer for guys running a lot of boost, especially small block Ford guys that only have 10 head studs holding the heads on. That allows guys to make insane power even with stock valve anvil heads that don't have that good a head sealing. Just taking the rockers off of this thing. Like I said earlier, this thing has got a pretty big solid roller camshaft in it. You gotta be very specific about how you take the rockers off. You can only take the ones off that don't have any tension on them. Then you have to roll the engine over and bring them up till there's no load on them before you can take them off. All right, we got all the rocker arms off. Took all the spark plugs out so we could turn the engine over. Got all the push rods out. Taking the rocker bars off right now. Next will probably be the valley tray. We'll be ready to take the heads off, be down to the short block. Then we just got to pull the pan and start disassembly on the short block, get the crank and rods and pistons out. Just going to show you guys while we have it apart. You know, we're in the process. A couple of casualties of war here. You can see that bolt hole. I just put a helicoil in earlier when I was assembling the engine. It's stripped out. It's fairly common on these heads where when you have a ton of spring pressure and you're really hard on the valve train, you know, turning this thing 8,500 RPMs. But quite a few of these have had failures. I think that one has a helicoil in it also.
All of them but one.
Yeah, that one I just fixed earlier today or last night when I was putting it together. I don't even know what day it is at this point. But that's just part of it. You know, just casualties of war. These engines, you know, it's not uncommon for them to be, at least in my operation, for them to be repaired and patched up. Something wrong with them at all times. You know, it's not there's never at least not for us, it's not 100% right, hardly ever.
To have done anything special?
Yeah, if you see, and you can see right here, the silicone's not even dry. You can see I can still smear it in some places.
So what would you have to have done differently?
It would have just been a lot harder to get off. I would have had to forcibly pry it off of there. It was all the way dry, but it came off fairly easy since it hadn't been together long. You can see the pistons are in good shape. There's really nothing wrong there. I just honed this thing before I put it together a couple days ago, but the cylinders have a little bit of taper to them. You can see there's quite a bit of piston clearance, piston to cylinder bore, and especially at the top. The cylinders got a little bit of taper to them. Plus they're not completely round. They got a couple of thousandths of egg shape a little bit, and I think that's why we're having problems with cylinder seal. You can see right here there's kind of a nick in this cylinder down there. See if you can
yeah, right there where it looks dented.
See that little gouge right there? We got a little dent in it. Just cylinder seal it and what it needs to be to really make this thing run. All right, we got the balancer pulled off of this thing. and pulling the timing set off now so we can get the camshaft out here in just a second. And then we'll pull the oil pan off. We'll be ready to pull the cranking rods out. We have this thing ready to go. Come on, man. I'll leave it sitting there for a minute so it can drip into there. Let it drip dry for a minute, and I'll take the front end apart. We just got the oil pan off of here. We're trying to get the bottom end apart the rest of the way so we can get this thing ready for the machine shop. If I don't have to work tomorrow, may quarantine my way up to the machine shop and drop this thing off. I'm sure I'll catch grief over that from someone about unnecessarily being out on the road, but
I think that's probably essential.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's, I mean, it's essential for my mental health to be racing, if nothing else. So either way, we're gonna get this thing ready one way or another. So unless it's gonna repair itself, I might have to take it somewhere. So probably try to take this thing somewhere tomorrow and drop it off. I got my my essential paperwork all ready, so I should be okay there. Try not to come in contact with anyone while I'm on the road. Just gonna stop and get gas and keep it moving. Just hope that Michael Hicks doesn't have coronavirus when I get there. And that's probably the only place I'll be going if I get this thing apart. He is the small block Ford guru. He said he would take care of it for me pretty fast so we can be back ready to race when all this mess is behind us a little bit.
Is there anybody that you are trying to redeem yourself with?
Pretty much everyone I line up against. I mean, basically, we're there to win. You know, we race a lot of guys that we're friends with. I mean, a lot of guys that I consider friends. You know, we race and we talk trash. I mean, anyone that, you know, follows me on social media or follows small tire racing in general knows probably that, you know, we talk a lot of trash and have a good time, but at the end of the day, a lot of the guys that we race with are friends. You know, some of our toughest competitors, you know, people think that we're about to fight, and some guys actually do want to fight me sometimes because of trash talk. We've been down that road a few times with a few different guys.
I can't imagine you're such a nice person.
I know it's hard to believe. I can't believe it either myself. But occasionally people get in their feelings, and some people aren't used to, I think some people just aren't used to people not like being afraid of them or bowing down to them. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Not naming any names in particular, but I mean, I think some people just get accustomed to people saying, yes, sir. And I'm generally not that type of guy.
But most of the time it's left on the track. Like trash talk is just left on the track.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that to me. I mean, it's the funnest part. It's some of the funnest part of racing to me is talking trash and, you know, having a good time in the pits and staging lanes. On Facebook, you know, wherever we, you know, run into each other. Or, I mean, me and Matt Ryan talk
some of the worst.
Complete trash to each other.
Or you and Jordan.
Yeah, and then he'll be messaging me on Messenger, and we're both dying laughing about it. But, you know, a lot of people don't know that it's all just that. Some guys, like Matt, for instance, you know, and a lot of my other buddies, you know, we can handle the trash talk. Some guys can't. Some guys aren't cut out for it. And for the most part, We don't mess with those guys that aren't built for it, because they get in their feelings. But you know, some of us old school style guys, we love it, and that's some of the funnest stuff to me is you know, we get to show our character a little bit, and we talk some good stuff. But as far as guys that I'm really looking to beat, I mean, I want to redeem myself. You know, I did lose one round of limited 28s last year to Gotti with the Mike Adams Racing crew, Marcus Burt driving, and I want to avenge that loss. I definitely want to get back into some real 28s. Tim Huddleston rules, kind of a limited 28s kind of deal. Shoot to kill. They run up north, which is pretty similar to limited 28s. Just no time 28-inch shootouts, basically. Carolina no time, small block boost is a pretty good class. We don't have any real personal targets that I can think of right off the top of my head. Yeah, I definitely want to get around John Gotti at some point this year. We got some new killers coming out. Got some guys on Facebook talking a lot about cars that we haven't seen yet. So we'll see if those cars ever show up and what they're about, if they do. But in the meantime, I don't worry about cars that I haven't seen, because you know they gotta prove they can do more than talk on Facebook before we take them seriously. And that bolt was tight. Got the timing set off of this thing. We just pulled a camshaft out, which it looks okay. I just had a repair spot on it last week because it broke a lifter last year and damaged it a little bit. This engine block actually has kind of a unique setup for cam bearings. It's an old Ford Racing or RDI block. You can't buy these things anymore. They have made them for a lot of years. But for whatever reason on these blocks, you can't run a 55 millimeter roller bearing all the way through like you can most racing blocks. In the very back journal of this thing, you can only fit a 50 millimeter roller bearing like this. So I just had to change it out. This is a 50 millimeter roller bearing for the rear journal, but the cam loader had 55 millimeters all the way through. Well, I did some research and found that you can put a journal bearing in the very back, just a Babbitt bearing, and it converts it to a 55 millimeter Babbitt bearing in the very back journal. So this thing has 4 roller bearings and 1 Babbitt bearing. I just bought a whole set of them because I swap back and forth. Another cam I have has a 50 millimeter roller bearing, so I swap that bearing in if I run the other cam, like when this one was damaged. I had to run the backup cam for a while. We're gonna knock the pistons out of this thing, get the crank out of it, and that's it. It'll be done with disassembly. Be ready to head to the machine shop here. All right, guys, we got the rods and pistons out of this thing. Got a Calais Magnum crank in this thing, not billet, nothing fancy, just a off the shelf Calais Magnum's been balanced to my rotating assembly. You guys can see just some basic GRP rods. It's got diamond pistons. These are a dish. The new pistons, I'm gonna put a flat top in it to get a little more compression to spool that monster there. These are 4160 bore. We're gonna back up to a 4125 bore to get a little more meat in the cylinders. We'll reuse these rods because they're fairly fresh. I change them like every season, maybe 2 seasons if I'm broke. Seriously. And we'll reuse the pins, and that's pretty much it. We'll hopefully, probably going to use those used pistons unless I can work a deal on a different crankshaft. I would like to get a 4-inch stroke crankshaft in this thing.
Shannon,
What are you pointing at?
look at the block right there.
Yeah, that's normal.
Okay.
That's where it previously broke a rod with someone else, not me. I've already got sleeves here. When I bought this block, Jack gave me 8 sleeves with it because we both actually thought that it would need sleeves before it got ran, but I've ran it for most of a season. These are brand new replacement sleeves he gave me with it because when I bought it, it was like 4155 bore. I didn't think I could run it like that with the cylinder pressure we run. But Kevin said it would be okay. We honed it to 4160 and ran it for a little while. All right, we got the crank out of this thing and it's ready to go. So we got it all stripped down, camshafts out, crankshaft, everything pretty much ready to go. If you guys want to look at here, just get a different view of the kind of stuff that guys like me are running. You know, guys you see that are pretty fast. I mean, we don't have, you know, the newest stuff. I mean, you can see here, this thing's broke a rod at some point. Not when I had it. I haven't broke a rod, knock on wood, yet. But this thing has broke a rod at some point. The block's been welded on and, you know, it's been blown up and torn up. This block's probably, I would say, 20 years old, probably. I don't know when they quit making these blocks. It's at least 20 years old. I'm sure it's been blown up and abused its share of times. But this is the kind of stuff that a lot of these guys that you see racing small tire cars run. Stuff that's in bad shape or been repaired and abused. Because the simple fact is, you're gonna break it again. You're gonna tear it up. So it don't make any sense to buy a $10,000 engine block every time you break something because it's just a repeat occurrence. Like, you know, it's not uncommon at this power level. You don't get to make a lot of mistakes. So if you miss the tune-up, it tears parts up. And I don't think most guys can't afford to have the newest, you know, a new block every time there's a problem. So